With life in Mumbai getting back to normal very slowly, I've been doing what I can to get back to my regular schedule while still taking the necessary precautions whenever I get out. I don't think there's enough of a conversation happening around the COVID numbers and what the situation is with the global pandemic. And I think a lot of people have moved on from it just because the lockdown isn't enforced anymore as strictly as it was previously. But I think that since this channel is based primarily around safety and riding safety, I think it's only fair that I talk a little bit about some of the measures that I take to stay safe or precautious when I'm out on my motorcycle rides, considering the pandemic. Ever since I picked it up a few days ago, I carry this Kriega Harness Pocket XL, I believe is the technical name for it. But it's a pouch which fits onto the strap of your backpack and makes a few essential items very easily accessible to you. What I carry in that is a few items which I think help me stay safe when I'm out on a ride. Firstly, my phone obviously is in there because if I need to get in touch with someone or in case of an emergency, it's directly available right next to me so I can message or call someone if need be. Another thing which you'll always see me with if I'm out on a ride or just out in general is a face mask, and I use this Rhinox R99 or 95, I can't remember which one it is. I'll put it up on the screen nevertheless. But I'm always wearing this. Even if I'm wearing a helmet, I wear this inside the helmet, and it's a lot more breathable than some of the other masks that I've worn, and from what I know it's a lot safer than some of the regular masks that you will get out there. It also comes with this handy strap at the back which goes around the back of your head and kind of takes the pressure away from your ears, because normally these straps could be a little uncomfortable, especially inside a helmet for a long period of time. And the first of two items that I shared that I carry apart from my mobile phone inside this pouch while I'm riding, and I asked you guys this on Instagram, just a couple of people got it right, and this was a tough one. So the first one is Colgate's Ved Shakti mouth spray. Now this is something that's new in the market, and what it does is it serves as a mouth freshener but also kills 99% germs inside your mouth. This is usually something that I spray just before I get out of the house, and in case I have taken off my mask to drink water or eat some snacks that I've carried, then I always use this after that too. Also, because I vlog as much as I do inside a helmet and ride for as long as I do in the heat that we're experiencing right now in Mumbai, it can get a little humid inside the helmet and inside a mask also, and then there's that foul smell that sometimes comes up, so this really helps keep it a lot fresher inside my helmet and inside my face mask. The next item that's in here, and some of you guessed hand sanitizer, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. These are wipes instead, and I took the baby variant of these wipes because they're non-alcoholic, so they won't react with a surface that may react to alcoholic wipes. And yeah, I'm always carrying these with me because obviously to wipe my hands, but also to wipe any parts of the motorcycle that may come in contact with other people. There's a lot of other people coming in, sitting on motorcycles, fiddling with the switches and whatnot when they're parked. And the last thing we want to do is get COVID-19 from something like that. So these kind of keep you safe and also protect your gear and the motorcycle in case you decide to wipe them with this. I put links in the description for all of the stuff that I'm talking about, so if you are interested in picking them up for yourself, go ahead and check the description and protect yourself. Good afternoon YouTube, I'm Augie F. This is the BS6 Mahindra Mojo, and I'm going to share my 2 cents about it after having it for close to 4 days now. Welcome to the channel. Now I think if there was an award for one motorcycle which went under the radar unnoticed for the longest time, I think this would be it. I can't remember seeing an ad for Mahindra in the recent past, especially for the Mojo. I think a lot of marketing was focused around the Thar when it was launched, but the Mojo seems like the stepchild which was forgotten about. And it is pretty sad that that happened, because this motorcycle has impressed me quite a bit over the last few days. Of course it does have its shortcomings, but which motorcycle doesn't? I never expected it to be like this. I really never expected it to be like this. Especially keeping in mind how few of these you'll see on the road, and I assume that there's not such a market for this motorcycle in India, but I may be mistaken. I may be mistaken. Now we'll start off as always by talking about the rider's triangle and the seating position. The seat height itself, what the hell is that guy doing? Special kind of idiot. Yeah, the seat height is pretty tall, and I'll put the figures up on the screen right now. I'm 5'10", I can flat foot the motorcycle, but I'm guessing shorter riders may not be able to do so very comfortably. I think if you're around 5'7", 5'8", you may be able to handle it easily. But yeah, anything lower than that, I think you'll have to be tiptoeing on the balls of your feet for most of the time. Adding to that, the weight of the motorcycle kind of makes it a little tougher to be able to handle the motorcycle at a standstill. So you might want to keep that in mind. The handlebars are placed nice and high, and it's a very comfortable cruising position because of also how the foot pegs are placed. They are not too rear set, they are not too far forward, and they create a nice 90-degree angle with your knees, almost like the ideal setup to sit in a chair. Now throw in some premium seat cushioning on this motorcycle, which by the way has been very, very comfortable over the last few days to ride on. And you've got a motorcycle that you can be in the saddle with for really long. I'm talking Adventure 390 type chub, which has been, for me at least, the most comfortable motorcycle, and for Pillion Prime also the most comfortable motorcycle for a while now. Speaking of Pilly P, we had the chance to ride through the city for a bit. In fact, it was a longer time than I spent on the other motorcycles with her, and at least in the recent past. And she said that this was the most comfortable seat that she's had a chance to sit on. Claimed that it's even more comfortable than the Adventure 390, which was again her benchmark for the most comfortable seat up until this point. Diving further into it, I've been reading a lot of forums like I always do before I conduct these motorcycle reviews, and I've been doing my research to kind of identify what some of the issues with the older models of the Mojo were, and trying to get to the bottom of why this motorcycle never sold as much as I thought it would sell when it was initially launched. And some of the feedback that customers had, and from the YouTube videos that I've watched also, I think the common consensus was that the brakes on this motorcycle lacked feedback and bite. Now, I'm going to disclose this at the start. I've not had a chance to ride any previous generation of the Mahindra Mojo, but I'll go by what other people are saying, because some of them are trusted reviewers. Some of them. Strange to have this much traffic out even on a Sunday afternoon, man. What's the world coming to? A global pandemic? Yeah, so one of the common things that people complained about were the brakes, and I believe they were J. Juan because they were Spanish, but people keep saying J. Juan, and I'm not sure if I'm right or I'm wrong, because I've been taking Spanish classes on Duolingo, and Juan seems to be Juan more than Juan, but I don't know, I could be wrong. It's a proper noun, it's open for interpretation, and you can say it how you want to. Yeah, but coming to the point I was making, the brakes were the chink in the armor, and a lot of people claim that they sold their motorcycles just because of the brakes itself. It's a risky thing to do, right? Putting someone else's life in danger, but nevertheless. But yeah, Mahindra has put Vibra brakes on the front of the Mojo and at the rear also. They've continued to give us that pedal disc, which everyone was such a big fan of when the motorcycle was launched, and I personally am a big fan of it also, and especially how it works, because these are one of the better set of brakes that I have experienced on a motorcycle, especially at the front. The rear I don't use so much anyway, but they work really well now, and the bite available on offer is pretty decent. Added to that, they've now given it dual channel ABS also, so there's that added safety net to the whole braking system too. And I keep saying this, you should be going as fast as you can slow down, and with the Mojo now you can feel a lot more comfortable going faster. Now, I read a lot of reviews about the motorcycle's engine being really smooth, and I just recently came off riding the Royal Enfield Meteor 350, which has a balancer shaft and which is considerably smoother than some of the single cylinder 300 plus cc engines that I've had the opportunity to ride recently. And this, I think, is right up there with the best. And if the reviews and feedback are anything to go by online, this has always been the case with the Mojo. I don't think vibrations has ever been a problem or a complaint with the Mojo owners group. In fact, the engine doesn't really seem very stressed even at higher speeds, and I was doing double-digit speeds but on the higher side, let's just keep it there. And the motorcycle seemed very, very capable of going faster and continuing to be smoother even higher up in the rev range. While we talk about the rev range, I think it's worth mentioning that that tachometer that Mahindra have given this motorcycle is very entertaining and very pleasing to the eye. The rest of the display I personally feel is a bit dated, especially considering what the competition is doing right now. KTM, BMW, TVS and everyone else in the 300cc space. But it is entertaining nevertheless. Now, one of the things that restricted this motorcycle from being a great handling motorcycle was the weight up front. It had massive upside down forks. This headlight unit in itself is really massive, and all of that weight kind of shifted up front, never really made the motorcycle dip into turns or change lanes very easily. It took a bit of effort. And what Mahindra have done is, in the BS6 Avatar is they've changed the front to telescopic forks instead, making it a tad lighter. Apparently they've also taken off some weight from the headlight unit, but I can't confirm that because I haven't taken off the headlight units and weighed them. When it comes to the rear suspension, this is the first time I'm seeing something like this on a motorcycle in this segment. And while other motorcycles would use a monoshock which has maybe 6 or 10 steps of adjustment predefined and available, and you can just click through those only, this one has an infinite amount of adjustability. What I mean by that is that there is an adjustment nut and a lock nut, and you can tweak it to the setting you want and then lock it in place. There's no predefined setting, and that's a very unique thing Mahindra has offered you at this price point. Now, I am riding the entry spec variant of the Mahindra Mojo, which comes with MRF tires, unlike the Pirelli tires that come with the higher spec, and which doesn't get the DRLs up front, which the other dual tone or dual colored variants get. Again, looks are subjective, so I'll leave that up to you, whether you like the way it looks or not. Now, the MRF zappers that come with this motorcycle offer a decent amount of grip, but I think if you're going to be really pushing this to its limit, especially keeping in mind the weight that this motorcycle has on it, I think you might do yourself a favor by upgrading the tires to something better. Maybe the Pirellis that are offered with the higher spec Mahindra Mojo. Now, what made this motorcycle popular with the guys who used to tour a lot was the fact that it comes with a 21-litre engine, and that's a lot. So less fuel stops, quicker ETAs and whatnot, and that was a big plus for some of the guys who bought the motorcycle in the initial days. What I've noticed over the last few days is that while that is great to have while touring, it is kind of what holds us back from being a really good handling motorcycle. And that's because, to begin with, the motorcycle's weight doesn't really sit low, and when you add a full tank of fuel to it, the weight kind of gets pushed further up high, and that makes the motorcycle's handling a bit sluggish when you want to maybe dip it into a turn or two. Also, when it was released, I think back in 2015, it was originally launched in 2010, but then eventually released in 2015. I think it was a good design for that time, but Mahindra really haven't done much with the design aspect of this motorcycle, or the platform, so to speak, since then. In fact, with the BS6 update, they've taken away the dual exhausts that it used to come with, and again the response has been cold to the single-sided exhaust. Now, I get the feeling that this motorcycle was modeled around someone much larger than I am. No shit, I'm not the biggest person you'd come across, but I have a friend who is 6'2", who is fairly larger than me.
That's what she said!
And even when he sat on the motorcycle, he felt that the proportions were a little off. Now, what I'm talking about primarily is not the seat or the handlebars, but the shape of this tank. The knee recesses seem a lot higher than a normal person would have them at, or any other motorcycle that I've sat on would have them at. And you'd have to be leaning off the bike pretty aggressively to be using those to their full potential, or you'd have to be a pretty massive person to be doing something like that successfully. Now, there's a few updates to the electricals on the motorcycle that I would love to see. Firstly, that dash, I think there is scope for an update to that, especially considering the amount of space available around it. You know, there's so much of plastic around that dash which is unutilized. Maybe add in a GPS navigation system now that the competition has it too. The headlights, surprisingly, while they're massive, don't really work very effectively. They do work well. I'll overlay footage of me riding at night with them. They do work well, but I expected a little more from them considering just the sheer size of those headlights. And I think Mahindra themselves have kind of I don't know, made this motorcycle look weird. And whenever I look at the motorcycle, that phrase, "too many cooks spoil the broth," comes to mind. And it's because it looks like a naked Street Fighter from the front. It looks like a Triumph Speed Triple from the side. And from the rear, you could be forgiven from being mistaken that it was a scrambler or a scrambler type motorcycle. But that's just how it's been put together. It's like this weird Frankenstein motorcycle that doesn't really seem like a finished product. And I know I shouldn't be focusing so much on design because again it's subjective, but it's what probably kept a lot of people from buying this motorcycle or considering it as their primary or secondary motorcycle. The other aspect to it, and this seems to be something that Mahindra themselves have done to it, is that they haven't really focused a lot on selling this motorcycle. And there was very little hype created around the launch of the BS6 Model 2, which kind of shows you how much Mahindra seemed to be interested in selling this motorcycle. I don't think Mahindra has solely been responsible for any of the sales of this motorcycle. I think it's the people who've bought it and who've used it and who love it that have then recommended it to other owners. Now that's saying a lot about your consumers, but it's also saying a lot about the company itself. And no offense to Mahindra, I think they're doing great when it comes to their four-wheelers and their tractors and whatnot. But if they can put the same amount of effort into their motorcycles, I think they would be able to succeed somehow. On the heat management front, I haven't heard a lot of complaints about this motorcycle overheating. And it does come with a overheating warning, but it doesn't really show the temperature as such. But what I liked is that even when you turn off the engine, the radiator fan still kicks in and does its job of cooling down the coolant that's circulating through the engine, which is a really nice touch which KTM should learn from. Now again, my battle with OLX continues, and in the spirit of keeping a motorcycle for longer than a few months and enjoying it to its fullest, here's a list of the service cost and the cost of consumables that you'd be replacing frequently during those service intervals. Make a wise decision, my friends. Make a wise decision. As always, guys, at least wear your helmets while riding your motorcycles and carry your masks if you're heading out in general now. And ride safe. It's a freaking jungle out there. Good. Bye. What Mahindra have done is they've now put Bibra brakes. Well, it's like a tongue twister. Bibra. Damn it. I should have just gone with what I said earlier.
Boss with a great bag, came up, you can't hate that. Self-made, you can't take that. Yeah, self-made, you can't make that. Some said I need a record deal, I need a cosign, I need a Dre track.